Did you know that the National Insurance Fund's reserve for the pensions branch is projected to be exhausted by 2028? According to NIBrateincrease.com, this alarming fact underscores the urgent need for action. Today, we delve into the intricacies of this impending adjustment and its far-reaching effects on employers, employees, and self-employed individuals alike. This is Preparing for Change, Navigating the NIB Contribution Rate Increase. Keep watching. A brand new episode of You and Your Money starts now.
Tonight's You and Your Money is brought to you by the National Insurance Board.
Welcome to You and Your Money, everyone. Joining us today to talk about understanding the implications, exploring the effects of the NIB contribution rate increase are Mr. Jason Moxey, Consultant for Public Relations to the National Insurance Board, and Mr. Trevor Bryce, Senior Manager of the Compliance Inspectorate Department at NIB. Mr. Moxey and Mr. Bryce, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, Mr. Moxey, how will the contribution rate increase impact the sustainability of the National Insurance Fund in the long term?
Well, first of all, when the program was introduced in 1974, we were a relatively young country. As a matter of fact, the first actuarial report of 1977 indicated that a rate of contribution of 8.8% would have sustained the fund for a period of time. However, during that particular period, there were 7 persons in the workforce for every 1 contributor. Life expectancy at that particular stage was 69 for the male and 71 for female. That has changed over the years. Today, there are approximately 4 persons in the workforce for every 1 contributor. Life expectancy for the male has improved from 69 years of age to 71 and a half years. And for the female, it's now 73 and a half years. Today, there are in excess of 46,000 persons receiving a pension from the board at a cost of in excess of $27 million per month. That does not take into consideration the payment of short-term benefits, namely sickness, maternity, unemployment, funeral, and benefits under the industrial branch at a cost of in excess of $6 million per month. Nor does it take into consideration the administrative costs. Revenue from contributions approximately $28 million per month. So you can appreciate the deficit that the board is experiencing as it relates to its administrative costs, or its operational costs, I should say.
Well, we definitely can see there's a whole lot that probably have not been considered, even especially when you talk about the actual life expectancy rate having to increase. Now, Mr. Bryce, what specific compliance measures should businesses and employers prioritize to prepare for the upcoming rate increase?
For businesses, we would recommend that first that they would advise and inform their employees of the pending rate increase, so that they would be aware come July 1st that additional funds will be deducted from their salaries. And secondly, we had those businesses that use automated payroll systems. We recommend that they begin the process, if they haven't started as yet, to update those systems to include the additional rates, so that the right amount can be paid as of July 1st. For those employers that are using the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that's currently provided by NIB, the information on that as relates to the rate increase will be updated. And so we recommend that you would download those spreadsheets from the website. And the website address is nib-bahamas.com. Or you can reach out to the Compliance Department at the National Insurance Board, contact any inspector, and they will provide you with the updated spreadsheet.
I do appreciate that you talked about, the having access to the sheet well in advance. So for those persons that's listening in, it's good to prepare yourself for what is to come. Now, Mr. Moxie, can you elaborate on the changing demographics of the Bahamas and how they contribute to the necessity of the rate increase?
Well, again, as I'd mentioned earlier, the initial actuarial review had indicated that we were a young population, and as I indicated also, that we are an aging population where persons are living longer, and therefore pensions are being paid for a longer period of time, and hence clearly there is justification for a rate increase.
Now, Mr. Bryce, how can businesses ensure that they remain compliant with NIB regulations amidst the rate increase?
What businesses can do is, first of all, ensure that they've actually updated their systems with the correct rate increase, so that when they begin to pay, they're paying correctly. We also want to remind businesses that the contribution payments are actually due by the end of the month, or by the latest, the 15th of the following month. And so it's very important that that you pay at the correct rate, because that also impacts the benefit that their employees receive. And so it's vitally important that you pay in a timely manner, because by paying in a timely manner, it also means that when your employees apply for benefits, that it allows us to process those benefits in a more timely manner without unnecessary delays. And so we recommend to employers to continue to pay on time, pay for all employees, and pay at the correct new rate.
All right. Mr. Moxie, is there anything you want to add?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I want to encourage in particular self-employed persons and employers of domestic employees to comply with the provisions of the law. In particular, the self-employed persons who at the end of their work life believe that they can just visit the board and apply for some form of assistance from the board when they had every opportunity during their work life to contribute to the National Insurance Program. It poses a challenge for the inspectors, in particular for those self-employed persons who do not have a place of business, who operate from their homes. And bear in mind that the inspector does not have a right of entry to domestic homes to ensure that those persons who employed housekeepers and gardeners, they're the ones who basically the scheme was designed for, because they're the ones at the end of their work life who really need national insurance. As a matter of fact, I think it was even more evident during the pandemic when so many persons were unemployed and needed some form of assistance from NIB. The number of persons who were paid unemployment benefit was in excess of 4,000 persons at a cost of $107 million per month, compared to previous months when the numbers were around 6,000 persons.
Now, Mr. Moxie and Mr. Bryce, both of you, what immediate actions are being taken to address the short-term and the long-term financial sustainability of the National Insurance Scheme?
Well, again, I'm not intimately involved in the day-to-day operations of the board, but I know that every attempt is being made in order to ensure compliance, because the board really exists for two main purposes. That is to collect contributions and to pay benefits. And if we fail to do that, then our job we would not have met our obligation as it relates to the administration of the National Insurance Program. And so I know internally they're making every effort in order to improve its overall efficiency, not only in terms of the collection of contributions, but also as it relates to the processing of claims.
Mr. Bryce?
So as part of that, we have launched a number of initiatives, which includes the hiring and training of additional inspectors to ensure that that employers are paying, and to improve the level of compliance. And so we're engaged actively in doing what needs to be done to ensure that the fund remains sustainable both in the short term and the long term.
All right, well, Mr. Moxie and Mr. Bryce, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we will look at compliance and preparation, strategies for businesses and employers. This is You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
Since 1974, the National Insurance Board has been an income replacement safety net.
But to ensure our future remains secure, starting July 1st, 2024, contribution rates will increase and will continue to be shared by employers and employees.
We will be sharing more information in the upcoming months, but for now, get more details on NIBrateincrease.com.
Invest in tomorrow today with NIB.
Because together, we can ensure our financial future.
Secure your spot at the new Eleuthera and Harbor Island Business Outlet, April 18th at the Eleuthera Business Hub in Rock Sound, with keynote speaker, the Honorable Clay Sweeting. And April 19th at Valentine's Resort and Marina, Harbor Island, with MP Sylvanus Petty giving the update on North Eleuthera and Harbor Island, and Deputy Prime Minister I. Chester Cooper delivering the keynote address. Visit tclevents.com today for registration options.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. In this segment, we'll be speaking with Mr. Trevor Bryce, Senior Manager of the Compliance Inspectorate Department at NIB, and we'll be discussing compliance and preparation, strategies for businesses and employers. Now, Mr. Bryce, what are some of those potential consequences for businesses and employers who fail to comply with NIB regulations in light of the upcoming rate increase?
The payment of national insurance contribution is mandatory. It's required by law. And so where businesses fail to pay the additional, pay the contributions at the correct rate, then the initial process is the inspector will engage that employer to advise them that they are paying incorrectly and assist them with doing what is necessary to address the matter. Where businesses fail to do so, then the inspector is empowered by the board to begin legal proceedings against that business. And so the inspector will prepare a file indicating what has transpired with the business, and then that file is then forwarded to our legal department, where the matter then goes to court for prosecution.
So in light of there being, the possibility of having legal action, can you provide specific guidance on how businesses can accurately calculate and manage their NIB contributions amidst the rate increase?
We ask businesses to ensure that they are properly advised of what is the new rate increase, how it is to be applied among employer and employees, and ensure that when they submit those C10 forms and their payments, that includes the correct rate. Because when that doesn't happen, then it means that you're actually in violation of the law. And so we want to encourage businesses to ensure that they update their payroll system, that they get the proper updated Excel spreadsheet to ensure that when they do pay, that they're paying correctly.
Now, Mr. Bryce, what resources or support services does NIB offer to assist businesses in understanding and meeting their compliance obligations?
Compliance is very important to NIB. And so as a result, we have looked at ways in which we can make it easier for employers and self-employed persons to meet their obligations to NIB. And so a few years ago, we would have launched the Employer Self-Service Portal, which allows small to medium-sized businesses to both submit their contribution statements as well as payments electronically. This allows them to automatically update the information to NIB system. And so it makes it easier for the employer to be able to just sit in their office, sit in their car, and submit that information to NIB. More recently, we've been engaged in the process of developing a mobile app, which will allow employers to submit those contributions and their payments using mobile devices. And we are consistently looking at ways of making it easier for employers to engage NIB and meet their compliance obligations. And secondly, we also realize that the inspectors are an important part of the compliance initiative. And so as a result of that, one of the initiatives that we have launched is to have inspectors be more visible in their geographical areas. And so it means that so now employers will see more inspectors on the ground visiting their businesses to conduct audit inspections. And secondly, to assist with this, we are in the process of training and bringing on and hiring additional inspectors so that when employers have concerns, they are able to reach out directly to inspectors for assistance. As an additional resource, we also have the website where the employer, self-employed person, can go on nib-bahamas.com to get that additional information or to have questions answered in regards to NIB.
Well, I definitely want to say kudos to you for, even having to think about, the technology age in terms of having an app. Persons would love to have the convenience of being able to go ahead and make those contributions right at the fingertip on their cell phones. All right. Well, Mr. Bryce, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
It's good to be here.
We have to take another break, and when we get back, we'll talk about communication and education, informing stakeholders about the NIB contribution rate changes.
Since 1974, the National Insurance Board has been an income replacement safety net.
But to ensure our future remains secure, starting July 1st, 2024, contribution rates will increase and will continue to be shared by employers and employees.
We will be sharing more information in the upcoming months. But for now, get more details on NIBrateincrease.com.
Invest in tomorrow today with NIB.
Because together, we can ensure our financial future.
Secure your spot at the new Eleuthera and Harbor Island Business Outlet, April 18th at the Eleuthera Business Hub in Rock Sound, with keynote speaker, the Honorable Clay Sweeting. And April 19th at Valentine's Resort and Marina, Harbor Island, with MP Sylvanus Petty giving the update on North Eleuthera and Harbor Island, and Deputy Prime Minister I. Chester Cooper delivering the keynote address. Visit tclevents.com today for registration options.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. In this segment, we'll be speaking with Mr. Jason Moxie, consultant for public relations to the National Insurance Board. In the previous segments, we spoke about understanding the implications, exploring the effects of the NIB contribution rate increase, and compliance and preparation strategies for businesses and employers. In this segment, I want us to talk about communication and education, informing stakeholders about the NIB contribution rate changes. Now, Mr. Moxie, what's the difference between insurance wage increase and a rate increase?
Well, when the program was introduced in 1974, contributions were paid on an insurable wage of $100 per week. The first rate increase occurred in July of 1984 when the insurable wage ceiling moved from $100 to $250. The last rate increase or insurable wage increase occurred in July of 2022, when the insurable wage was increased from $710 to $740 per week. And there's likely to be another increase in the insurable wage come July of this year. The insurable wage increase is due to increases in salary over the years, and so for benefit to remain relevant to the salaries that are being paid, there is a need to adjust the insurable wage ceiling from time to time. As a matter of fact, the law requires that it be reviewed every 2 years. So an insurable wage increase will only affect those persons who are earning above the existing insurable wage ceiling, whereas a rate increase will affect everybody. And the first rate increase, and the only rate increase that have occurred since the inception of national insurance, occurred in 2010, when the rate was increased from 8.8% to 9.8%. The 1% increase was to bring about the payment of unemployment benefit. And that rate increase was shared equally between the employee and the employer. The employee's contribution increased from 3.4% to 3.9%. The employer's portion increased from 5.4% to 5.9%. So currently the rate of contribution being paid is 9.8%.
Now, Mr. Moxie, what's the policy for financing government buildings as well as the clinics?
Okay, so I wish to disabuse members of the public who believe that the government have access and utilize NIB funds for the purpose of constructing buildings. While in part that is true, the investment of the board's fund is restricted, limited by law to involvement in blue chip investment, so to speak. And so the financing of government buildings is a part of the board's investment policy, where the board provide financing for the construction of government buildings. And in return, government repays NIB on a regular basis as to the funds the board, in fact, may have made available to them for the construction of buildings. There's also a myth out there about the construction of the clinics. When the program was introduced in 1974, you'd note that the rate of contribution paid was 8.8% shared, 3.4% employee, 5.4% employer. The differential of 2% represent the employer's responsibility to NIB to provide coverage in the event a person suffered an accident arising out of and in the course of their employment. However, the industrial branch was late in repealing workmen's compensation, resulting in an accumulation of funds in the industrial branch of NIB. And so the question was, what should government do with the funds? And so the International Labour Organization was consulted to determine how the funds should be utilized. And they recommended the need for an improvement in the health infrastructure of the country, resulting in NIB investing the money in improving or constructing clinics, not only on the island of New Providence, but in the Family Islands. And so that is how the construction of these clinics came about, because of the excess funds. So one portion was used for the purpose of constructing clinics, and the balance was placed in the pension branch of the National Insurance Fund in order to extend the equilibrium of the fund for the pensions. Additionally, a portion of the funds were used for the introduction of the drug prescription plan that exists in the country. And even prior to the introduction of unemployment benefit under the National Insurance branch, during the course of the recession during 2008-2009, the board also provided unemployment assistance to those persons who worked and who, as a result of the recession, did not have a job.
Well, Mr. Moxie, thank you so much for helping us understand, what are some of these myths that actually do exist, and actually informing us so that we are fully aware as to how it actually works. Now, how does the NIB plan to communicate the changes to voluntarily insured persons, as well as ensuring their understanding of the rate increase?
Well, as it relates to voluntary insured contributors, there aren't too many of them that participate in the program. They are persons who, in fact, cease to be an employed or self-employed person who would wish to continue to contribute to NIB. Those contributions can only be utilized for the purpose of qualifying for retirement, invalidity, and survivor's benefit. Luckily for us, we don't have too many of those persons who participate as voluntarily insured persons. They pay contribution at a rate of 5%, and so with the proposed rate increase of 1.5%, their contribution, in fact, would be 6.5%. As it relates to self-employed persons, they too will be affected by the rate increase. Their rate will move from 8.8% to 10.3%. We know that for self-employed persons, they pay their own contributions. They're eligible for all of the benefits that are available to employed persons with the exception of unemployment benefit. So no consideration is being given to any reduction in their rate because their benefit is basically the same. Self-employed persons will pay 10.3% with effect from July 1 of 2024.
And are there any exemptions or special considerations for certain groups of individuals affected by the contribution rate increase, such as the low-income earners or vulnerable populations?
Well, no, because their benefits are based on one's insurable wage. No two persons receive the same benefit. So your benefit corresponds with the insurable wage on which you pay contribution. The exception really might be for those persons who earn in excess of the insurable wage ceiling. A person might earn $1,000 per week and the other person might earn $740 per week. Well, their benefit would be the same because you're only paying contributions on the first $740 that you earn. It is likely that the insurable wage will increase, resulting in an increase in the benefits to be paid to a person who earns $800 or more, if that is what the insurable wage is increased to.
Okay, well, Mr. Moxie, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure.
To navigate the NIB contribution rate increase, remember that preparation is key. Stay informed, adapt your financial plans accordingly, and ensure compliance with NIB requirements. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Scan the QR code on the screen to give us your feedback. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, together we can manage this change and secure a stronger future for all. Here are our dollars and cents snapshots from this week's show. Number 1, Budget Boost. Adjust your financial plans to accommodate the upcoming NIB contribution rate increase, ensuring your budget remains balanced and sustainable. Number 2, Compliance Commitment. Stay informed about the new contribution rates and take proactive steps to ensure compliance with NIB regulations, safeguarding your financial standing. Number 3, Future Readiness. Prepare for potential financial changes by building an emergency fund and exploring additional saving strategies, providing peace of mind in uncertain times. That's it for today's show. And don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen to give us your feedback. Follow You and Your Money on Facebook and tune in next week for a brand new episode. I'm Ria Christina. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Tonight's You and Your Money was brought to you by the National Insurance Board.